How's it going today? Today we're going to talk about how I turned $1,000 into well over $100,000 just fully on the stock market. Now I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to try to make it kind of maybe long, but I can't teach you all this in one thing because it's a philosophy. It's basically a business model. I'm going to teach you a business model that helped me turn $1,000 into $100,000 in the stock market from basically my phone and laptop. Basically, I don't really have any, and really you don't have to have any college degree or nothing. I don't have a college degree or nothing. Make sure you like and subscribe. I go teach all this to help you out, and I pick stocks and everything like that to make sure that you can do this. So as long as you have a can-do attitude, you can do this. I'm going to get into it. It's going to sound a little more complicated, but as you learn, this model might work for you. It may not. I go listen to some problems with this model, but for the most part, I believe you can. I mean, the numbers add up. It's just, can you make it happen? That's what you have to understand. Can you make it happen? Which I believe you can. So anyway, we're going to get right into it. Basically on my, I have two accounts. I have multiple accounts, but basically two kind of accounts. I have my long account, and then I have my short account. And what I do is I call it basically my long growth portfolio, which I talk about on my channel. That's kind of what my channel does. And I do try to treat what I call the trading kind of operations. I don't know what else to call it, but that's basically what it is. And basically the long growth is, I'm going to get into that first. But you have to understand the most important thing is about cash flow. You have to have cash to go back in, because then you're asking the question, why I don't have, I can't just keep adding money. Because a lot of people, what they run into the problem with the stock market is they don't have the capital to invest. So essentially the long-term growth portfolio won't really work, you know what I mean? Because you don't really have that stable income, that cash flow to keep adding it. So that's why I came up with the trading operation side to produce cash flow that you can reallocate back into the long term view, and think about, and that's where I teach about options and stuff like that. So you can have high returns with low capital. You know what I mean? If you start with just $1,000, think about with $1,000 with your trading, you can trade options because, they have bigger upsides, and you learn how to trade options and you use that account. But as you grow your account more, you move that capital into your large account where you go for longer gains, for you invest like the trade desk, the Shopify's will take years probably to pay off, but you can, look at Shopify. Over the last couple years, it's went up over 10 times, you know what I mean? But if you really think about it, then you say, well, I don't really have the capital. And then they could say, well, why don't you just try to find one Shopify store, one Shopify, and just leave it that way? Just buy one thing. First, that's extremely risk. This model reduces risk and increases your potential upside. So if you're betting on one stock to do Shopify, well, that's one in a lot. You know what I mean? So really what it does is, that's why I use the options to grow my account. And then basically I only put $1,000 in there originally, and I would trade options. And let's say I could double it and maybe triple that account. And then I have it would be almost $3,000. Then I take that, I sell it, and I only keep, because options are very volatile. And the problem is, once you gain a certain amount, it's hard to save up that money. It's easy to maybe save up $1,000. You know what I mean? You can cut things, but it's almost impossible to save up 100,000. You know what I mean? Save up 100,000, making only the average American wage is what, 30,000. Try to save up 100,000 with bills. You can't. There's no absolute. Well, I guess it takes you maybe decades, but it didn't take me decades to do this. It took me only about a couple years or so, you know what I mean, where you can grow it at a pretty fast rate with options, but then you take the money and reallocate into your long-term growth, so that solves that problem. Because then if you just stick it with that, the options, well, you can get obliterated, and then you have to save back up the money. So let's say you go to 10,000. I see a lot of people, they go make 10,000, then get cut in half, and then they're back down to that much money. Or you can take that money, save it, and put it into your long-term thing. And the other thing with that is it reduces risk, and you still have big upsides because you have the capital to invest into companies like Shopify and stuff like that have a lower and then it reduces your tax because your long-term capital gains is reduced. So essentially, and that's the way it is. And then you use options to slowly grow that up to the point where, you're sitting around, let's say, the $10,000 mark, where you have $9,000 in your long term, and then and then you have maybe 1,000, or 2,000, or maybe, you have to work out the ratio because then you can do other things. When you have more money, more opportunities open up because then you can get into swing trading. What basically swing trading is you hold a position for maybe 2 or 3, maybe a week, and it could go up 10%. You know what I mean? If you have, let's say, your option trading goes up, because options, you just kind of betting on them. You know what I mean? And that's the way this trading operations, that smaller account can grow because you get a higher return, and you just take that money and put it into your long-term account. And the other thing with options, if the stock goes down, you can actually make money off on the put options. So essentially, you can bet both ways, which is nice because when the market goes down, this crashes, which is okay, let it, because them are the long-term holds. You know what I mean? You can hold those for years, and probably maybe just for at least 3 or 4, 5, 6 years, you can hold those, and then maybe sell them. But with the call options, you can make money to reallocate it once again. Just keep flooding it back into it. It's all about producing, but cash flow. But then once you hit maybe the $40,000 mark, you have 40,000, then you have 10,000. You need at least $10,000 to about 15,000 to really swing trade. And what swing trading is you just kind of go and it goes up 3 or 4% on $10,000. Let's say $20,000. I mean, that's over $600 a day. So you can take that money and flood it back into your long account where you keep growing that wealth. You keep growing up because that's really where you want to go into your long growth. But you have to have capital to get there. So you have to trade to go in there, and it's kind of complicated for the most part. And you can say, well, why don't I just trade all the time? Well, the problem with trading is it's increased taxes. You get taxed just like your regular income. You get taxed around 30%. So let's say you make $10,000 or $2,000 or $12,000, you get hammered with taxes. That's the problem with that. You get killed with taxes. So this reduces your tax bill, and, so you kind of avoid taxes in your long-term growth portfolio. And that's really what you want to do. And the other thing about the long-term growth, you don't really have to manage it properly. You just buy the stock and just wait. And it normally, if you pick good ones, like I recommend on my channel, it grows up, and that's a model that I use. And the other thing is you can use margin, and I use loans on my trading operation side of my portfolio. I use TD Ameritrade, and that's kind of my trading type thing. And I could use loans, and you can buy a stock on a loan margin basically, and then you can use other people's money, get a return on it, and then flood that money back in there. Then you can short and stuff like that. So basically, that's really how I really did it. You know what I mean? Where basically you take that $1,000 and just keep flooding it. Basically, it's all about cash flow. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these people can keep trading. But, I guess you can do that. But, so that's how I did it. And I have very good returns on my growth portfolio. I mean, you can look at the stocks I've recommended. I recommended some of these things went up over 5 times on my channel. And they're good companies, too. They're not penny stocks. I don't touch penny stocks. You know what I mean? And so essentially, what I like about the model, and that's kind of the model, it's just kind of flooding into that larger account. Just keep growing that capital, and you can work on the ratios, what you prefer. But you start with kind of what options, so you can grow capital from a low base. You can, because options, they can double in a day or so. So that $1,000 can go to $2,000 pretty quick, but it can go down pretty quick too. So, but you can save up $1,000 a lot faster than $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. So that's why I move it on there, and not really worry about the thing. The investment. So essentially that's what I do. And you always have basic cash flow coming in, And the only problem with this model is it takes a little more time. If you're full on trading per se with options, you could probably do it a lot quicker, but you have a lot more downside per se, you know what I mean? And that's really what it is. So anyway, leave a link down in the descriptions of if you like this model. That's what I've used over the years. I mean, you can critique it for your own personal agenda or your personal perspectives, but that's what I've used over the years. It's worked well for me. Hopefully it will work for you. Just leave a link, or a comment down in the descriptions of a question you have or anything you don't understand about the model, and I go try to get into it. For the most part, maybe make a part 2, because it's kind of a complicated kind of thing, you know what I mean? And it's one of these things, I've been doing it for years, so it's easy for me to understand it. But you know what I mean, over the course of doing it for a while, you know what I mean? Maybe I could talk about shorting and options and stuff like that, which I normally don't. But maybe I could talk about that a little bit more on my channel if you guys like it, or you just guys want just long term and you can worry about your options and trading and everything like that. So just let me know what you guys like, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching. Thank you.